The African National Congress will this morning convene a media briefing to announce official nomination processes and rules towards the 55th National Conference. The conference is due to take place from the 16th of December. The briefing will be led by the chairperson of the ANC Electoral Committee, Samkele Maseko. For more on the story, let's cross live now to our colleague, senior reporter Samkele Maseko. Very good morning to you, Samkele. What are we hearing from Luthuli House this morning?
Indeed, Desiree, the ANC's head of elections committee, Kgalema Motlanthe, the former deputy president of the governing party, will today outline the processes going forward for the governing party's branch general meetings in their nominations for those who will lead the African National Congress, either as National Executive Committee members, additionals, or in the top six of the governing party. We have seen a number of ANC leaders whom the issue of the leadership race of the African National Congress has long bothered, with Mamboloko Kupai Ngubane, whom has essentially started her campaign as Deputy President of the African National Congress. And then we have Paul Mashatile, the Treasurer General of the ANC, who has come increasingly unavoidable for that position of Deputy President of the African National Congress, as you have seen that a number of his allies have been winning the provincial conferences of the ANC. And then you've got ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa, who seemingly has already the endorsement of 3 provinces of the governing party. But that also comes amid some turbulence and turmoil amongst regions of the African National Congress, particularly when you look at the fracas of the ANC in the once was dubbed the 10th province of the governing party, which is Ekurhuleni, which is fraught with many challenges and a threat of parallel structures, one led by Mzwandile Masina and another led by Dr. Xhakaza. And then you've got issues pertaining to provincial conferences that have not set yet within the Free State province and also the Western Cape province. But in essence, Kgalema Motlanthe, the chairperson of the ANC Electoral Committee, will outline the processes to be followed by the branch general meetings. But also, you'd remember those guidelines that were set out by the ANC's acting Secretary General and Treasurer General Paul Mashatile, which spoke about ANC's internal campaigns now being allowed within the party. But those whom campaign have to declare who funds their internal campaigns within the party to avert what was dubbed the CR17 bank statements.
Samkele, as we get into this conversation, just jog our minds a bit, just in terms of the provincial conferences. We know the Western Cape hasn't held their conference yet. Which provinces are outstanding?
There are 2 provinces outstanding at this point in time. It is the Free State province and it is also the Western Cape. The Northwest, which has largely been a very divided province of the African National Congress, which is the Northwest, finally held their provincial conference over the past weekend. Our colleagues in Tebu Mokobo and Tlatla covered that particular provincial conference when Nono Malloy was declared the provincial chairperson of the province. So they have essentially elected their leadership. Nono Malloy is saying that perhaps this time around the Northwest province will stop being a joke when it comes to ANC politics and all and sundry just coming in and out and dividing that particular province. You've also got KwaZulu-Natal, which has recently held their own provincial conference, where Sponiso Duma was elected as the provincial chair, Bheki Mtolo elected as the provincial secretary. You go to the Eastern Cape province, where Lula Mangugai came back as the provincial secretary, and Oscar Mabuyane, the provincial chairperson of that province. In Gauteng, you've got TK Ngiza, who is the provincial secretary, and also Panyaza Lusufi, who is the provincial chairperson. And you go to the Western Cape, many people are still asking, does the ANC still exist within the Western Cape province? But what we do know is that one of the West Coast region of the ANC in the Western Cape has held their regional conference. There are more regions which are set to hold their regional conferences, and we are not yet sure whether they have met the 70% threshold of branches within the province to hold a provincial conference. We do know that in the Free State province, Paseka Nompondo, the coordinator, and Mxolisi Tukwana, the convener of the Free State province, they are trying their level best in order to come together and also hold a provincial provincial conference within that former stronghold of suspended Secretary General of the African National Congress, alias Sekgobela Magashule, which the door has been effectively shut on him going towards the 55th National Conference of the ANC, where he may watch that conference of the ANC from the comfort of his couch at home and not be a delegate due to the fact that he is currently suspended as the member of the ANC, and only the over 4,000 voting delegates that will converge at the Nasrec Expo Center is the only lifeline to try and save Ace Magashule. But with the guidelines that have been sent out by the acting SG, Paul Mashatile, that door has been effectively shut on him. What we do know now is that a hot contestation for the position of Deputy President is ensuing, with the dark horse of Dr. Zwelini Mkhize also being in the mix after his influence in KwaZulu-Natal in that provincial conference was seemingly cemented with the election of Nomagugu Simelane Zulu as the Deputy Chairperson of the province and also Bheki Mtolo as the Provincial Secretary. But you cannot rule out David Dabete, the cat Mabuza, as he also has a number of his supporters in the top echelons of the governing party in various provinces, particularly when you go to KwaZulu-Natal. He has the likes of Dr. Ntuthuko Mahlaba, the provincial treasurer of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, who's a strong advert for and a strong proponent for D.D. Mabuza to remain as the deputy president of the governing party. Then you've got Ronald Lamula, whom is seemingly being backed by the Youth League of Mpumalanga, seemingly also being backed by the province of the ANC within his home province of Mpumalanga, mainly by Mandla Ndlovu, the provincial chairperson, and Muzi Chirwa, who is the provincial secretary of the province. So it's all going to be a Game of Thrones going towards the 55th National Conference of the ANC, where also you've got Limpopo led by Ruben Madedje and also Stan Chupu Mathabata, who want Ramaphosa to come back as president of the ANC. But their catch is that Stan Chupu Mathabata must be the national chairperson of the ANC.
Interesting analogy there, Samkele, but I want to ask you, how easy or difficult does it make the work of Kgalema Motlanthe this morning, the fact that not all the provinces have gone to their conferences? One would imagine that when you want to outline the road forward to the national conference, you want to have all your ducks in a row.
Well, Desiree, what we've come to know within the ANC constitution, which it clearly stipulates, is that a national conference is not a national conference of provinces, of regions. Just like a provincial conference is not a provincial conference of regions, but the provincial conference is a provincial conference of branches. A national conference of the ANC is a national conference of branches. We have seen a number of provinces having gone to the national conference as either interim structures or having been disbanded. Just to bring you to mind, you go back to 2012 at the Mangaung conference, where the ANC in the Free State province was disbanded on the eve of the conference. That PEC did not vote at the Mangaung conference. You go back to the Mpora Makata judgment, which once again disbanded the Free State province. You go to Nasrec again in 2017. The Free State province and KwaZulu-Natal did not go to that provincial conference as PECs because they were effectively disbanded by the courts of having run irregular provincial conferences. So a national conference in December does not need per se to have a Western Cape having elected a PEC. They can go there as branches of the ANC or even as the Free State. They can go to the national conference of having not elected a provincial executive committee, because a PEC is not the one whom runs and coordinates a national conference. But a national conference is a national conference of all the over 4,000 branches of the African National Congress, and it does not need the 54 regions of the ANC to all of them having convened regional conferences. For instance, let's take the Northwest province as a guinea pig example. The Northwest did not hold any regional conferences going towards their provincial conference because they said a provincial conference is a provincial conference of branches. Let's rather convene all of the branches of the province, meet the 70% threshold. If we can exceed that 70% threshold of branches, that would be an exceptional work that would have been done by the IPC. But the PEC now that has been elected, led by Nono Muloi, then has to convene regional conferences. The question is, do they convene these regional conferences and muddy the waters with the branch nominations for the national conference, or they wait and hold regional conferences post-December after the ANC's 55th national conference? For instance, Ekurhuleni in Gauteng is meant to go to a regional conference. You've also got the West Rand, which is meant to go to a regional conference, which failed to meet the 70% threshold going towards the Gauteng provincial conference. They will only hold the regional conference in West Rand and will only hold an RGC in Ekurhuleni post the 55th National Conference of the ANC, because they don't want to conflate the issues of branch nominations for an RGC and nominations for the National Conference of the ANC.
So, Samkele, we've seen in Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi take over chairmanship of the provincial body, but not opting to start a process to become the premier of the province, which is the opposite in, for argument's sake, KwaZulu-Natal, where leadership changed after Sihle Zikalala lost leadership of the provincial body. What are we seeing in the Northwest Province following that weekend conference? Are we going to see a change in leadership in terms of from political party to government?
That will depend on the assessment that will be done by those whom are elected as officials of the ANC within the Northwest Province. I do know that in Gauteng, in the ANC's PwC meeting during the week, there was a push by others to say that the premier of the province, David Makura, must now step down, and a new premier of the ANC must thus be discussed upon in those three names that may be submitted to the ANC's top six for an interview process for those whom will be interviewed as a premier candidate. But the ANC officials within the party are saying that the ANC officials will do a thorough assessment of the performance of the government and then make a determinant if a reshuffle is needed. We do know that Premier David Makura had said to the ANC officials he would love to hand over power gradually over a period of time to the new provincial chairperson of the ANC, that was Panyaza Lesufi. But the political dynamics of the ANC in Gauteng see Panyaza Lesufi on the back foot within the PEC of the province, on the virtue that he does not control that body of the party. That body extended the entire PEC of the ANC in the province is largely controlled by the Adiwele faction, which is led by TK Ngiza and Lebogang Maile, which is very clear within their perspective that Lebogang Maile must be the next premier of Gauteng and not Panyaza Lesufi. And those are some of the dynamics that David Makura, Panyaza Lesufi, and the entire ANC, PEC, and TK Ngiza are seemingly facing with of the two factions from the provincial conference, which have seemingly not disbanded. When you effectively look at the composition of the PwC, you also look at the fracas and the divisions that are still being boiled upon within the Ekurhuleni region. Just yesterday, branches of Ekurhuleni, which supported Dr. Xhakaza, seemingly marched here to Lutuleau, saying that they do not recognize the leadership of Mzwandile Masina in Ekurhuleni due to the manner of how the 19 quarantine votes were handled by the new PEC, and they have effectively petitioned the NEC of the ANC to look into this matter and to say that this matter was not properly processed and properly followed by the new Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC in Gauteng, and no RGC was called in Ekurhuleni to come and iron out the processes of how this leadership of the ANC was thus declared of Mzwandile Masina, Jongizizwe Nhlabathi, Silos Koko as the regional treasurer, and Maiponi Mhlongo as the secretary of the ANC in Ekurhuleni, while the then regional secretary was elected. TK Ngiza was subsequently elected as the provincial secretary of the ANC. So the ANC has seemingly, in the perspective of those supporting Dr. Xhakaza, failed to manage that issue of the quarantine vote, which will further deepen the divisions within the party. But on the other hand, the Mzwandile Masina perspective within Ekurhuleni and the PEC in Gauteng is saying they are seemingly happy with how the matter has been opened, and they are then squashing the issue of the 19 quarantine votes and declared the leadership of Ekurhuleni, which will further exacerbate the divisions and further make it fractious and more difficult for the ANC in Gauteng to change a premier due to the high level of divisions that are there within the province.
So whether it's due to South Africans' dissatisfaction with the rising cost of living or non-service delivery, or whether it's factions or divisions within the ANC or corruption, there is a growing sense that the ANC will come short in the 2024 election and might lose power in many areas of the country. Is this a consideration as the ANC prepares to give us this briefing this morning?
ANC leaders are seemingly at the back of their minds very cognizant that it is for the very first time since the dawn of democracy that the ANC in the 2021 local government elections that they dipped below 50%. You go back to the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa's address at the ANC's KwaZulu-Natal conference. He spoke extensively of how the ANC is in danger of losing its outright majority come the 2024 general election and the deep divisions that are there within the governing party. But ANC leaders, despite knowing the fact that they are on the back foot when it comes to the electoral fortunes, they are still pretty much at war with one another, mainly over the access to resources. You just go mainly to the assertions by the ANC's national chairperson, Gwede Mantashe, when he was speaking to the Sunday Times, of how he said that the younger generation of the ANC is particularly more concerned about gaining access to power within the party, which will give them access to resources. The ANC is not facing an ideological warfare or ideological differences. The differences that are there within the ANC are mainly that of access to positions, which will give them access to resources in order for them to have access to the resources of the state, which has pretty much seen, you'd remember the letter by the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa to all members of the party, that the ANC stands as accused number one when it comes to issues of corruption. You go to how the ANC has been speaking about renewal, particularly from the ANC's 2002 conference in Stellenbosch, where Thabo Mbeki was re-elected as president of the party. You go back to Nelson Mandela, the former president, late president of the ANC and late president of the country, in the 1997 Mahikeng conference, of how he spoke about an alien aspect creeping into the ANC, where people are being elected into the party in order to access resources of the state. That is as far back as when the alien elements that the ANC leaders speak about creeped into the governing party, and they still speak about the very same issues till today. You speak about renewal of the ANC. They all speak about renewal within their structures, but do you really see renewal within the structures of the ANC with the type of leaders that have been elected within the various provincial conferences, the various regional conferences, which then prompted the NEC to say that all leaders of the party whom are charged cannot stand for election within the party. This was after the election of Zandile Kumente as the regional chairperson of the ANC's biggest region in eThekwini. This was after the election of Mandla Msibi as the provincial treasurer of the ANC in Mpumalanga. Then they subsequently put in a clause which prohibited Danny Msiza, who was implicated of corruption when it comes to VBS Mutual Bank, from contesting as the provincial secretary of the ANC in the province of the North in Limpopo. Just in the recent provincial in the recent policy conference of the ANC, there was a huge battle of step aside, which spoke less about societal issues such as the high cost of living, high fuel prices that we are seeing, the load shedding that we are currently seeing, and the failures of power utility Eskom. But the ANC was more inward looking within its own problems of elections, of step aside, of leaders accused of all manner of wrongdoings, which the ANC is trying to cleanse itself of, but sees the very same leaders whom are charged being elected into positions of power.
What time can we expect the briefing?
The briefing will start at 10 o'clock this morning, led by the ANC's head of Elections Committee, Kgalema Motlanthe, and there will be other ANC officials, particularly who will be within that committee, whom will oversee the branch nominations of the party.
Thanks for setting the scene for us. Samkele Maseko is political reporter here at the SABC.